possible. But in terms of this specific spot, John is telling us it's someplace else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said in Hebrew it's called Mount, because it's not a mountain, and he knows Hebrew better than we do. Second part, Megiddo. If it's not this spot, what is it? Either it's generally speaking, or maybe what we need to do is see if he's reached back into the Old Testament and he's pulling something out.
Zechariah 12.
Pulling something out. Is there a Mount Megiddo in the Old Testament?
There's a valley of Megiddo.
There's a valley, and there's a plain of Megiddo. There's no Mount Megiddo. Is there a mount something else? Maybe the mountain is correct. Maybe the Megiddo part is wrong. And now you have to use your little bit of Hebrew, all right? In Hebrew, how do you spell Megiddo? Mem, Gimel, Dalet. The Vav, forget about. Mem, Gimel, Dalet. All right? Mem, Gimel, Dalet. Is there another word that you could translate from that to get instead of Megiddo? Not really. What about that middle letter, Gimel? Gimel, the Gimel in Hebrew actually has a kind of a, how can we make this easy? Kind of a pre-Semitic history that allows a G sound to arise either from a Gimel or from an ayin. What's the deepest Philistine city? Gaza. G in English. What about in Hebrew? What's it start with? It starts with an ayin. It's kind of a sound in between. All right? So maybe the G of Armageddon comes from an ayin, not a gimel. Just like Gaza. What does that mean? Mem ayin dalet. If that's the Hebrew behind it. What does that mean?
Great.
No. That's me'od with an aleph. With an ayin. Mo'ed. It means assembly place or gathering place. It means assembly place or gathering place. In other words, a place which in Hebrew is called the mountain of assembly, the mountain of gathering, Har Mo'ed. First of all, is there such a phrase in the Old Testament? Yes, there is. Happens to be Isaiah 14, verse 13. Har Mo'ed. A gathering place, number one.
What's the reference?
Isaiah 14, 13. Number two, look back at these verbs again. Performing signs, spirits going out to the kings of the whole world to gather them together for the war of the great day of the God Almighty. And they gather them together to a place which in Hebrew is called Mountain of Gathering. So there's a literary tie as well, isn't there? And we have in Zechariah 12, in Zechariah 14, in Joel 3, and Isaiah 29, the armies of the world at the end of time gathering for the great battle, gathering together at Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And Har Mo'ed in Isaiah 14 is an idiom for Jerusalem as well. I think what John is doing is he's giving like he does so much in Revelation, he's giving a code word, a little bit cryptic, because, Revelation's a little bit like that. Not for this place. By the way, Megiddo's 400 years destroyed by John's day. But for Jerusalem itself. I think Armageddon is Jerusalem. Where, by the way, the valleys look like this. And it's much more conceivably possible for blood to flow to a horse's bridle than it is here. When the valley is like this. Even that's still a lot of blood. But you can still see it flowing like so. I think so. What we have is, in Revelation, as in the rest of the Bible, a tale of two cities, as John Sailhamer used to say, where we have good and evil, where we have Babylon and Jerusalem. If you want to call Rome Babylon, you can. If you want to call Jerusalem Armageddon, you can. Two world systems, if you want. Good and evil, whatever you want to call it. And the great clash at the end of time is going to be between those. And Jerusalem is worth fighting over. even in an age where you have intercontinental ballistic missiles and Star Wars and everything else, where a valley like this, unless it's ground warfare, is really going to mean nothing.
Yeah.
Jerusalem is still worth fighting over. And the armies consistent with Zechariah and Joel and Isaiah gathering there. I think Armageddon is a code word for Jerusalem. By the way, I didn't make that up. That's Meredith Kline, Senior, Gordon Conwell Seminary, Journal of the Evangelical Theological Society, July 1996, who got it from a guy back in the 1920s. Well, it's not a new idea. It's almost 100 years old. What that does to movies and things I don't know, it should heighten that. Jerusalem is worth fighting over. This is a crossroad of the past, you see. But Jerusalem remains as important. Yes?
What was the last reference you gave where Jerusalem is referred to as Harmony?
Isaiah 14:13. It's cryptic. You just can't read the verse itself. You have to look at the context. You see. But Jerusalem is Harmo-A. This to me is consistent with the kind of writer John is. The kind of geographer he is. Knowing the land well and the illusions.